Hi everyone, welcome, John here, and this is week 2 of my weekly web scraping series where I do a web scraping project every week and I'll just explain to you my thought processes, how I go through it, and we'll see what the outcome is. So today's website we're going to be doing some more Amazon scraping. Now Amazon scraping is sometimes a bit strange, they change things around sometimes, but at the moment there is a good way that works. We're going to be using requests HTML, but we don't need to use the render function in this one, so that's going to be nice and easy for us. Some good CSS selectors and an output. So if we go to the website, I've loaded up a search term here, as you can see, and the URL changes at the top, which I'm sure you are all aware of. Now, the data that we're going to be scraping today is we're going to be looking at the top reviews from the product page. So if I open up this product here, we can see that there are 32,000-ish ratings, 5 stars. But if we scroll to the bottom of the page and get the first top ones, you can see they're 1 stars, and it seems like these people at this time have been struggling to get this product. I don't know if this is still true now. However, I just thought this would be an interesting bit of information to get rather than just the price, etc, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to scrape this search page here. We're going to get all of the ASINs from these products, and we are going to then construct product URLs from them, load each one up and scrape the data that I just mentioned. So let's get started. I'm going to grab the search URL here and we're going to go to our code and we are going to import actually from requests HTML import HTML session. And then I'm going to say our URL is what I just copied, and we can remove the end bit up till the end of our search term just like that. Then we want to do s is equal to HTML session to create our session object. I've done a video on sessions in its entirety. If you want to, I'll link that down below if you want to watch that one as well, so you understand why we use a session. So the next thing I want to do is I want to see what information comes back. So I'm going to say r is equal to s.get of the URL. So I'm doing a get request and I'm storing the data in the r variable. So I'm going to do r.html.html, which is going to give me the raw page back from this request. So I'm going to run this and you can see we get the little meowing duck thing down here. That's usually a good sign when you're scraping Amazon that it works, and nothing along here says captcha, so I'm happy that it is working. If you're getting a captcha error, you might need to think about another method, but this is working well for me at the moment. So if I go back to the page now and use the inspect element tool and open this a bit bigger, we'll see when I go up through here, back up the tree and collapse some of these, we can see here that there's this div with the data-asin with the ASIN number in. This is what we're going to grab. We're going to grab this piece of information here from each one of the products, and then we're going to construct a URL with that to loop through each product itself. Now, because we are able to use CSS selectors to just get any div tag that has this in, we need to be careful because there are other products on this page that aren't part of our search results that we are not interested in. So we're going to go just back up the tree a little bit more until we find this one here, which is the div class of our search results. So this one has quite a long name, but I'm just going to copy the first part of it. I think that will work fine for us. So if I go back to our code, what we want to do is, let's say, print r.html.find, and it was a div and a dot to represent the class, and I'm going to paste that in there. And if this returns an element, that we know we're in the right place. There we go. We can see that it lists out its class here, all separated into. So we know we're in the right place. So what we can do now is we can expand on this CSS selector to just get those data ASIN tags from the website. And to do that, we want to say, we've got the name of the data-ASIN here. So let's go for, put a space in to say that we want to match the next one or the ones underneath this parent. And we can say the div of data-ASIN. So that's going to find all of those elements that match this div-data-ASIN inside this one here, which is what we just found. So if we run that, we should get quite a few back. And we do, we can see we're getting all the data back here. So now I know that that's working. What we can do is let's loop through all of these and print out the data that we are after. So let's just call this asins, and then let's say for asin in asins print, and let's check that we are getting those in a nice fashion. Yep, good. So now we can, I think we can just do asin.text, and we can see that we're getting all of the text back from that. However, when we look at the website, we don't want the text element from it. We actually just want this information that's within this data async tag. Now to do that, what we can do is we can use the ATTRs, the attributes. So we can say, this is the attribute we want, and it was called data-asyn. So what we're doing is we're actually using that to identify the elements and also to say that's the information that we want out. So let's run that. And you can see that we have got back all of a nice long list here of asins. But you can see some are blank, and that means that we have found elements that had that data-asyn tag, but they have no information in them. From my experience, those are either products that don't exist anymore or something, or maybe they're sponsored or anything like that. So I'm just going to remove them from this list. And to do that, I'm going to say, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say, if this does not equal nothing, print it out. So now, you see I've moved this indented under the if statement. Now we should just get a complete list. There we go. So no, we've removed all of the ones that don't have any data in. So we need to form a list out of this, but I'm going to use list comprehension to make this all neat and tidy, because we're going to turn this into our first function that's going to return our product URLs list that we're going to give to our rest of our program when we get there. Now to do that, I'm going to say, let's call it, I've already said asins up there, so let's just call this product list is equal to, now we want this data, so this is the bit that we want, so this comes first, for asin in asins, which is what we've done up here, if it doesn't exist, if it is not blank. So you can see what I've done is I've just taken this and I've kind of flattened it out into one line, and now if I remove this and we just print our product list, we should get our list back of all of our asins. There we go. So that's a nice neat way of sort of flattening out your for loops just to make them neat and tidy. So now I'm going to tidy this rest of this code up and turn this into a nice function for us that we can use. So I'm going to say, let's do it here, get asins, and we want to give it all of this. So let's indent this and move this up. And instead of creating our list inside here, we're actually just going to return this list out of our function. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this whole thing and I'm going to put it in here, and we're going to change the search term that I've put here, and I'm going to just do an F string, and I'm going to say search, put an F in front of it. You can see it's changed color in my color scheme, and then I'm going to give it a search term, if I can spell search, there. So what I've done is I've just condensed the whole lot down, and we are basically saying, here's our search URL. This is the term that we're going to give it. So to test this out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say print, because we want to print the result of this function, get asins, and I'll just use the same search term that I did before. Now we should still get our URL, our asin list out like that. Nice and simple. So it's all condensed down now, and now we have a function that will go and put that search term in that we give it and return the list of asins where this is not blank. The next thing that we want to do is now we need to have a look at the actual product pages themselves and see how they are laid out so we can get the information that we want. So I'm going to suggest that getting the title is probably a good idea so we know what product we're looking at. So I'm going to go straight away and I'm going to use the inspect element tool, hover over that, and we can see that we have a span ID with product title. ID is nice and easy to get out of using CSS selectors. So I'm going to go and say, let's start our function as well. Let's call this one get data. I should really have better names than this. And we're going to give it an asyn from our list because we're going to loop through this. And then we want to do r is equal to s.get. And we need to give it the full Amazon product URL. So I'm just going to copy this and I'll show you how we can cut out the bits that we don't need. This is really long. Everything after the asyn here, this is the asyn in the middle, we can delete, and you can even delete this part of the name as well. So if I now copy this URL back, paste it into our browser, we get the same page. So we know that that works. Recopy my product title for my span ID. And now we want to do, what do we call it? Product name. I'll just call it product title. Product name. It's equal to r.html.find, and it was a ID, so we can do like that. And we're going to do first is equal to true, as I doubt there are any other elements called product title with the ID of product title, sorry, that don't have the product title, so we should be fine with that. And then I'm going to do .full text, so we get the information in the text that we want. So now I'm just going to check that this is working, and I'm going to say print product name and then the asyn. So now we want to do our function here and test that this works. So I'm going to say print. Actually, we don't need to do that because we have our print statement in here for testing. So I'm going to do get data, and I just need the asyn that we were testing with, this one again. I'm just going to copy that out of the URL, paste it in here. So now when we run this function, it's going to put it in here. Let's remove that, otherwise that won't work. Put an f string in again. There we go. So when we put our asyn in here, it goes into here, constructs our URL, and we should print out the name and the asyn of this product. There we go, and it's worked. There's a whole load of white space in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do .strip to remove all of that and try again, and we should have it all neat and tidy now. There we go. So we've got the product name and we've got the asyn, so we know that this is working. So the next thing that we want to do is try and get the top 3 or whatever reviews from this product. So if we go back here and then scroll down, actually let's get the total number of ratings first. I think that's probably a good idea if we're looking at ratings. And we can see we have a span again, an ID with the ratings tag, so let's just grab that and we can then paste it under here. So let's just say rating count is equal to r.html.find again, and it was another ID, so we use the hash to symbolize that. And first is equal to true, as I'm fairly confident that will be the right element. Full text, and seeing as we did .strip on the last one, let's do it again, and then let's put this in here as well and print that, and let's see what we get back. I think it was 32,000 or something. 32,200 ratings. Fantastic. So let's scroll down to the review section, and if we do our inspect element, we can kind of see they're broken up into kind of cards, I suppose, and if we hover over this we get them all. So if we go through this now, we should find where they all are. Back up one, somewhere around here. In fact, let's just use this and go in on this bit of text, we'll find it. Okay, cool. So we've got there, we can see here there is this data hook review title which we can use, and also there is a star rating somewhere here too. Let me find that. Hover over that. Oh, there we go, data hook star rating that we can use as well. So that has the text in it. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab both of these for these reviews, but we're going to get all of them. So let's do let's move down here and let's go for something like, let's call it reviews is equal to r.html.find, and on this page we saw somewhere up here data hook review, I think it was called. If I scroll up the tree a bit further, there, data hook review. So we can see these are each of the reviews on the page. So I'm going to copy that and we're going to say .find, and it was a div tag with the, and we can use the square brackets to find the review. No, we can't. It should be data dash hook, sorry, like that. And then we want to say where it was equal to the word review. So we're basically looking for elements with this div tags with this attribute where it is equal to this. So if I was to do print reviews now, let's remove this print statement here. We should get an element back, or sorry, 5 or 6 elements, I think. There we go, we can see that they're all there. What we can do now is we can just loop through those elements and we can pull the bits of information out that we're after. So let's do for rev in reviews, and we want to do rev.find, and let's go back to the page because I can't remember what it was. It was review dash title, and it was an a tag data dash hook. Okay, so we can do that. We want to find all a tags where it was data dash hook equal to review title, which is what I just copied. And then we want the span tag after that. So if you look again, there was a span tag under here. So we want the information that's in that. So then we can do first is equal to true. I think we need that. And then dot full text. Let's print that out. And then let's also print out rev.find. This should be very similar. And it was back to the web page. This one right here. And it's an I tag in HTML. I'd not seen many of those before. And it was review dash star dash rating. And then the span underneath that as well has the text in. So again, and we can do data dash hook is equal to the review star rating. And again, the span. And then first is equal to true dot full text. Span, not Spain. And then let's print out, let's remove this print statement now because we don't need it. So this is getting a little bit too messy for my liking, but we're going to just check that this works, and once it does, we'll tidy it all up. So we should get back an error. I got an indent error, so I've typed something wrong. I forgot to close the brackets on my CSS selectors, which is why it was complaining. So they need to be there like that. So now this should work. There we go. So we can see now we've got the title of the review and then the 1 out of 5 stars underneath. We can see there. So that will work nicely for us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a dictionary, and we're just going to append the whole thing together at the end. So I'm going to say our ratings dictionary is this, and we'll put it underneath here. And we'll turn this into this was the title key, is this, and we don't need that bracket now, we do need a comma, we don't need that one. And this one was our review, so let's just call this one rating, like that. And then let's print that dictionary out, check everything is working okay. There we go. So each one now has the title and then the rating, which is good. So we can remove that print statement. But what we're going to need to do is to add these together. What we're going to do is we're going to create a list. So we're going to have a dictionary, and then the reviews, the top reviews for each one is going to be a list of dictionaries within that. So I'm going to say under here, I'm just going to give myself a list. Actually, I need that above because we want to append to it. So I'm just going to say top reviews is this blank list. I'll just give you a bit of space so we can see we're working on something different. And then after each one of these, we want to do top reviews.append our ratings. So then we can add this list to our complete product, which we're going to do down here. So we're going to say product. We're going to create a new dictionary, and the title is going to be, actually I call this product name again, don't I? Let's call it product name. Product name is product name. and the ratings count is ratings count. Put that there, and then we can actually just append this list to here. So we can say, let's call this one reviews, top reviews, like that. So let's now print the product, and I'll just tidy this a little bit up a bit so we can see. So all we're doing here is we're just basically creating a list of dictionaries of the top reviews so we can keep them all together. And when we print this out, we should get the product name and then everything together. So you can see that we've got the product name here, the amount of ratings, and then our reviews nice and neatly nested all in here, easily to see and manipulate. Okay, so that works well. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to, instead of printing this product, we're going to return it out. So this is this product here we're returning out of our function. And now we need to write a main function that's going to put everything together and run this all nice and neatly for us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this URL. We don't need that now. I'm also going to import pandas as PD so we can do something with the data when we get it. I'm going to copy and then remove the HTML session from the top of the code because we're going to put it into our at the bottom. So let's get rid of that. So I'm going to say, here's our main function. So when we run this function, we want to say our search is equal to the same search that we had before, which is what we're giving it here. And then we want to say, we want to get all the asins. So we want to run our first function to get all the asins. We want to save them into a list. So let's call that list asins. It's equal to that. So that's going to get our asins list. And then we can run through each one in turn and add it to a list. So then we want to actually, let's just print out how many asins there are so we know how many we're dealing with. So let's do an F string and let's go found, and we can do the length of the asins list in our curly brackets. That's not what I meant to do, thank you. Found that many asins. So let's run our main function now and see how many that returns, and it should all work and then give us a number. Except it didn't, so I've done something wrong. That's because I don't have the HTML session because I removed that. So S is equal to our HTML session. When you remove something, remember to put it back in. So we're saying found 28, so we got 28 asins off that page, which is good. So let's move on to the next part of the code. So we need to run the get data, so that one's good. So we need to run the get data by each asin on in our list. So we could just do a for asin in asins, run this, but I'm going to do it using list comprehension just to make it nice and easier. So I'm going to say our results is equal to, and we want to do get, do I call it get data, asin for asin in asins. There we go. And then we can do df for our data frame equals pd dot data frame results, and then we can do df.to csv if you wanted to, and let's just say, let's call it, we can use the search variable plus a .csv, and I'd always like to do index is equal to false because we don't want to use the pandas default index when we do that. And then we can just return out of our function. So that does everything for us. And then here I'm just going to do if name is equal to, you absolutely don't have to do this bit, but I find it just makes it nice and easy and neat. So every time we run this function, it will just work, run this code, it will just work for us. So that should be all good. Let's double check that we've got everything lined up right. So we have our two functions, which I showed you earlier, that get all the asins off the page, and then this one which goes and gets each product information from the product page and returns the name and the ratings, etc. In our main function, we are putting in our search term, returning the asins list and saying how many we got. Then we are creating our results list from the what we're getting out of our get data function, with a little bit of list comprehension here to make it neat and tidy, creating a data frame, and then adding all of that to a CSV file for which we can export. except that hasn't worked. And we can see here that we have an error, which is saying it cannot find it. So none type object has no attribute. So that suggests to me that that element doesn't exist on that page. And that's interesting because that's the product title element. So I'm not quite sure why that's failed. There's always something wrong. I checked back through my code and I was doing some debugging, and I found out that I've decided to append a whole list to the URL here as opposed to just the asyn. So that one little s there is causing me the problem. So we're going to remove that because we want each individual asyn from the list to be appended, to be used as our search term and then appended to the URL, rather than the whole list, which is why it wasn't working. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a print statement in back into our get data function. I'm just going to say print. Let's just print the product out so we know where we're at when it's running. And I'm going to run this now and hopefully that should work fine. And we'll just see it ticking through. There's all the asyns that we've found, and we can see it's going through and finding each one where all the information that we pulled out earlier is. So the good thing about this is that you can loop through and you can get all the information out, which is quite cool. You can save it nice and easy. Any kind of element on the page that you're looking at, you can find. The downside is that it is a bit slow because we are looping through each and every single page. If you're scraping Amazon and you can get the information off the first page, the search terms page, definitely do that. Otherwise, what we're going to do in a future video is we're going to do a similar thing to this, but we're going to do it asynchronously and we're going to speed it all up. The downside with that is that when you speed it all up, you do get much more likely chance of being blocked by the website. But there are other ways around that as well, which we're going to cover in the future. However, this is quite a cool little script, which is useful, at least I thought so, to getting some kind of product information out, and you can have a look and see things, see how they work, etc., etc. So I'm just going to let this finish, and then I'll show you the CSV at the end, and then we'll just wrap it up. So we can see that we've run into an error here, and that's because the product that we have tried to get the information from doesn't have any reviews in it. So I think the easiest thing to do is just to add a try and accept into this, because if it doesn't have any, it doesn't have any. There's nothing we can do about that. So let's just go ahead and do under here in our function. We're going to try to add the ratings count, and if there aren't any, we're going to say except ratings count is equal to 0. So all that's just going to do is if it can't find this element, it's going to turn it to 0, which is fine by us because that means there are no ratings for that product. So I'm going to run this one more time and I'll just show you the results at the end. It's finished, and if I open up the CSV file, let's close that, we can see that we have all the data here. 29, so 28 results. Well, it didn't take too long, and that's worked really well. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. I've got loads of web scraping content on my channel already, and there's more to come. So if that's interesting to you, or you're actually wanting to learn about this subject, then go ahead and subscribe so you're kept up to date with my latest videos. And if you've enjoyed this one, hit the like button, drop me a comment, etc., etc. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.